I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I have asked Anella Smith to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. And this is the meeting held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act, and we allow opportunity for public comments later in the agenda. If you would like to address the board, please fill out the white card with the blue border and give it to staff in the back, I believe. Give it to staff at the table near the entrance of the boardroom. If you wish to speak to an agenda item, please indicate on the card and your name will be called at that portion of the agenda. You will have 3 minutes to speak. As a reminder, this is a listening session for the board, and we do not respond to the comments, but you will be hearing back from staff members if you indicate your contact information on there. If you are a student, please check the student box on the card. And due to the high number of public comment cards that we will have, and we have several here already, we are asking that students address us first, and this would allow you to return home to get the rest you need before school tomorrow. Let's see. Dr. Watts, do we have any changes to the agenda?
President Vengadassalam, members of the board, Ms. Halley, please note that a supplemental personnel report has been added to the agenda, and it is before you on the dais.
All right. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the change to the agenda, please.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All those opposed say no. All right, motion passes. We are going to start with 2.0, the recognitions, and the first proclamation will be read by Director DeBruler, and Ms. Christy Padilla will be accepting the Teacher Appreciation Week proclamation.
All right. Well, we know that teachers work really hard. It's a very hard job. We go into it because we love learning. We love to see children learn, and we love to see that light bulb go on above their heads. So this is for all our teachers. Whereas the role of the classroom teacher cannot be overemphasized, for they are the single most influential factor in a child's educational experience. And whereas our teachers are at their best when they hold students to high expectations, challenge them to think critically, push them to excel in the face of any obstacle, and guide their development toward becoming contributing citizens. And whereas under the expert direction of our teachers, classrooms throughout Kent School District are places where students have the opportunity to display creativity and imagination and develop a passion for learning that will last a lifetime. And whereas excellent teaching is a labor of love, and our dedicated professionals often use their own resources and work long hours to enhance and enrich the daily learning experiences of their students with innovative and individualized lessons. And whereas educators shape the future of our community and nation as they work each day to prepare our students to compete globally. And whereas the value of our talented, committed, tireless, and inspirational teachers is without measure, now therefore be it resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors hereby proclaims May 7th through the 11th, 2018, Teacher Appreciation Week in Kent School District, and urges all citizens to pay tribute to our public school teachers. So, Christy, are you there somewhere? Or is it? Oh, she's there. She is.
Okay, I wasn't prepared to speak, but So again, I have to speak from my heart, and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. But I'm living my dream right now. I lead the most dedicated, selfless, hardworking group of people in the Kent School District, in my biased opinion. And I'm so fortunate, and I want to thank each and every teacher in this district for doing amazing things for students under very difficult circumstances every day. And so they are truly appreciated, not just during Teacher Appreciation Week, but every day of the school year. And I also want to take the time to thank the people who support our teachers, our administrators, and our paraeducators, our office staff, our food service workers, our custodians, our bus drivers, our tech people, our office people, district office people. You are also very much appreciated, and we could not do our work without you. So thank you very much. Who else? I'm sorry. Nurses, they're part of us. Nurses are part of us. So they are educators too. So yes, I'll mention them as well, and our counselors and all of our ESA. So thank you very much.
Next is the proclamation for the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And I'd like to read the proclamation. And let's see, whereas Congress passed a law in May 1990 to designate the month of May as the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, calling on the people of the United States, especially the educational community, to observe a month with appropriate ceremonies, programs, and activities. And whereas Asian and Pacific Islander Americans have distinguished themselves in the arts, literature, and sports, and have made contributions in science, medicine, and technology that enrich our nation, and whereas Asian and Pacific Islander Americans have lived and worked in Washington State for over 150 years and have contributed to the rich cultural heritage of the state, and whereas the diverse Asian Pacific Islander American population in Washington State numbers more than 674,000 and represents more than 11 Asian and 7 Pacific Island nations, and whereas Asian Pacific American Heritage Month provides an opportunity to educate the public on the role Asian and Pacific Islanders have played in American history. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District joins Washington State Governor Jay Inslee in proclaiming the month of May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And I would like to present, to accept the proclamation, will be Naomi, okay, I'm going to try this last name, Mulitau-Pele. And if you can give me 1 minute. And I would also like to ask the members of the Kent Lake Pacific Islander Club, Kyra Anella, I hope I say that right, Anella, Christian McFarland, Fiona Fula, and Jag Galei. This group has also spent the last 3 months practicing for the Samoan Arts and Academic Competition, and their group name is Tupulaga Mo Tau. And 3 Kent students were recognized for their academic achievement in this group, and that's Penina Logotala from Kent Meridian, Christian McFarland from Kent Lake were recognized for their highest GPA award, and Kira and Ella McFarland from Kent Lake won the top scholarship award. So if you'd like to speak or share anything, we'd be happy.
You come. Here, how about here? I'll start, and then okay. Thank you all for this wonderful welcome. Again, my name is Naomi Mulitao Pele. I'm a Tangaleo now. My husband's back there. And we are just so honored. We're so thankful and proud to finally see this time come. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Education with Purpose Foundation for Pacific Islanders. We are new to this fabric as Pacific Islanders. We do have, our Asian American brothers and sisters. We have a combined identity, but as Pacific Islanders, being from the islands, there is quite a little bit of difference in the cultures, but I'm here to say that we are definitely excited to bring forth, all of the opportunities that we see as a culture from the islands to bring here, to come to America. I'm seeing these kids that just totally taking on these opportunities. Me being the first Pacific Islander to graduate from Stanford University, it's like, but it goes to show that we're new to this fabric. So seeing, these students, you're students now, you're young adults now. It's been a long time ago. I was in high school like you guys, but just seeing the development over the years, we as an organization are just committed to working with the Kent School District to bring alongside everyone behind us to come and just be great citizens of the community, to come and just work together to just make a better future for all of us. So thank you so much. And I'm going to hand it off to the young lady here. And thank you.
I just really quickly wanted to thank Dr. Watts and all the work that he's done towards equity in the Kent School District. So thank you.
All right. Yes. Thanks again.
We'll do pictures. Don't forget, we do pictures after we've done all the parts. After we've done all the proclamations, we'll just go for pictures, so don't leave.
Please stay.
Yeah, don't leave.
Yeah, this is a request for everyone to stay until we take photographs after the next proclamation. And the next proclamation would be the National School Nurse Day, and it'll be read by Vice President Strauss.
Thank you. Whereas all students have the right to their healthy needs met safely while in the school setting, and whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by providing critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children, and whereas school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, parents, healthcare providers on behalf of a children's health, and whereas school nurses support the health and education success of children and youth by developing and providing programs and leadership, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day, now therefore it be resolved that the Kent School District Board of Directors hereby proclaims May 9th, 2018 National School Nurse Day in Kent School District and urge all citizens to join us in this observance.
Sorry. Dr. Mary Newell, Coordinator of Health Services, and school nurses Tracy Papineau and Christy Welsh will accept the proclamation for National School Nurse Day. Thank you. And Dr. Newell will be sharing a brief video.
Yes, we have a little video.
About school nurses.
When you're a school nurse, you build relationships with students all the time. After they get to know you, they're in the halls and they're waving and, "Hi, Miss McDowell. How you doing? You want me to come in and see you today?" I always tell them, no, it's good for you to be in class. You can wave when you go by, but stay in class. You get a grade for that, not for being in my office.
So I have this great thing that I do with a special black light and glow-in-the-dark powder that I put on kids' hands. And we talk about how we want to get those nasty germs off of our hands through washing them. And I do that in kindergarten and first grade. And in fifth grade, these kids will still remember. I remember the time you came in and did that germ stuff with me.
The school nurse keeps you healthy and makes sure you don't get hit like a stapler on the head like I did.
When I started, there were 2 diabetic students in this district. 2. And EpiPens had not yet been invented. And as we talk today, I've got 300 students that are insulin-dependent diabetics and 2,500 EpiPens. We do a lot more than just give out Tylenol and Band-Aids and ice. We're advocates for the students. We're there all the time. We're there for these stomach pains when it's really anxiety that they have about the test or maybe some big things going on at home and they need someone to talk to.
The nurse's office is a safe place. So if you're not feeling well, not only physically, but mentally, and you just need a place to relax, there's always a separate room in the nurse's office where you can just lay down and just take a break for a little bit.
They think I'm the eyeglass fairy because students will come down with their broken glasses, and at lunchtime I run over to the eyeglass person and they fix the glasses.
I love being a school nurse, and I love being a school nurse because it's never a dull moment. Every day could potentially bring something new, some new way that you need to help a student or help a family. And our help as school nurses go beyond, a lot of times, just the student. We're making referrals for kids, but we're also educating parents, helping them to navigate, the healthcare community outside of the school.
We just want people to be healthier. We want everyone, no matter what their zip code is, to be able to live to their fullest potential.
The first time you get to go down to the nurse is when you lose a tooth.
Nurses around the country are my heroes. School nurses are my superheroes.
To now introduce our 2 nurses that received their national certification this year. Christy Welch, who is at Springbrook and at Panther Lake, is finishing her 4th year of school nursing with us, and Tracy Papanow is finishing her 1st year at Kent Lake and Daniel, and will be getting her master's degree in nursing in September. So thank you. Congratulations.
So we will be doing photographs next, and we'll start with our teachers, our Teacher Appreciation Week. To our right. All the teachers.
Don't move yet. One more. 1, 2, 3. All right, now line at the top.
So we have our students from Asian Pacific Islands.
All right, 3.01 presentations, graduation presentation. We'll have Dr. Joel Harmon, Chief Accountability Officer, will present the class of 2018 graduation data and answer questions from the board. Dr. Harmon.
Good evening, President Van Godaslam, members of the board, Dr. Watts, Ms. Howley. It's a pleasure to be here talking about our core business, and with it being spring, talking about our students as they prepare for graduation. So we'll start this talking about, and the goal of this presentation, like last year, shifted just a little bit. So we talk about students who are prepared and ready to graduate. It's difficult to say with certainty what the graduation rate will be because it is somewhat governed by OSPI and their determination. However, we can get a good estimate and sense of that by backing into the two separate pieces of the requirements that are needed to meet graduation and what students are prepared for that. So the first part of that is meeting assessment requirements. And we'll get into a little bit later about some of the other flexibilities around this, but this goes to students who, as of May 3rd, when we ran the data, had met the assessment requirements. So met ELA, met math, met the combination of the two. For the class of 2018, they have to take the science assessment, but there's no requirement of mastery on that piece under current law. So we'll look at assessment requirements by race, ethnicity. What you have are the student groups as reported and required under OSPI, the counts, and then you have the percent who met ELA and math combined, and the percentages. I want to talk about the American Indian Alaskan Native row for just a second. So it's less than 10. Under FERPA, we are not supposed to provide information for student groups that have less than 10 members, because as we start to go through and unpack that, it becomes very easy to start to be able to identify who those students are, and so that becomes a violation. So I put the collective whole number here, but as we move forward and we start to break that out and unpack it, you will not see values for that. And we can go into detail about that. I can't share that in a public setting that way. Asian students, Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islander, 2 or more races, and white. As a whole, our student success rates with assessment requirements to date are holding steady. So that's a small celebration. I'd prefer that they be increasing, but I celebrate the fact that at least we are not worse off in that case in terms of that opportunity. We'll talk about, again, the flexibilities of that moving forward. What is a positive here is that our students who are English language learners, low income and special education students across our district for the class of 2018 have significant percentage increases over the class of 2017 in terms of their passing the state assessments. Again, these rates are not necessarily where we'd like them to be, and there's still work to do across the board for all of our students. But the fact that we've got 7-8 percentage point increases over last year is just huge. And that's a celebration and a testament to the work that's being done, our students digging in, the supports that are provided across the district. And so that's wonderful. But we know that assessments alone won't get us to graduation. It's the combination of course credit attainment and assessments that get us there. And so this is just a reminder of what the state of Washington requires for the class of 2018 and what is required by Kent for the class of 2018. Some reminder that what is hidden in this is that half a credit for the history piece that's there. So just be mindful of that. But I wanted that clear where some of those differences are. And the 23 credits for Kent is a long-standing piece. That's not new for the class of 2018, but it's just a reminder of where we are slightly different from the state. And we'll talk a little bit about how that's changing some moving forward too. So the percent of meeting credit requirements, we classify this in 2 ways. So this is, again, students who are in the class of 2018. We know that they need 23 credits to meet district requirements for graduation for courses. And so the percentage of students who have less than those 20 credits, it's 15%. 15.5%, 20 to 23 credits, 45% of them are living there. And that's okay because every day senior year is being lived. And so we'll talk about what becomes of those students and where they end up in just a second. And then there's those students who already have the 23 credits as seniors and have completed 23 credits. 39.5% of them have those credits as well. And so what I've done when we think about who's likely to graduate and be prepared to take that walk, it's the combination of students in that 20 to 23 range and the greater than 23 credits who have the greatest likelihood of walking in really 6 weeks. And it's because we know that it's lived that these students are likely to pass their courses, meet their course requirements, and be ready to graduate. And so when we look at that, the same colors hold through as we talk about our race and ethnic student groups. Again, American Indian, Alaska Native, we're not going to report that out. We can discuss that, but it's less than 10 students, and so I don't want to get into being able to identify that in violations. But with our student groups, what we're seeing are just really great decreases in the students who are living in that less than 20 credits range. I mean, the less than 20 credits. which is nice because we don't necessarily want our students to go into their senior year having all the credits they need for graduation, but we don't want those students in a position where they are in a credit recovery intensive mode as they approach their senior year. It's a really difficult hole to dig themselves out of. And so thinking about that and where that looks as we focus on our equity lens of moving forward, what student groups still need support, where we need to make those investments, and where we can catch that prior to senior year. Again, as a whole, though, the biggest gains, I'm proud to report, even though there's lots of work that still needs to be done, are with our English language learners, our low-income and special education students. The percentage of those students that are really moving forward with course credit attainment is just really, really great. It's really great. It provides an opportunity and is a testament to the programs and supports and hard work that's happening in our buildings every day. And so it's the intersection of those two that get us to who is ready for graduation. And so although we have large percentages of students who have met the assessment requirements and have met the course requirements, not every student who's done each of those becomes into that group in the middle who've done both. And so it's 78% of those students who have met the requirements, met credit requirements, meaning have 20 credits or greater, and have met the assessment requirements. And so what's important as we move forward to think about are the students who have met the credit requirements only, 6.4%. So that group there needs to meet either the ELA or math assessment requirement or both. 9% who need to meet the assessment, who've met the assessment requirement but have not met the credit attainment requirement. So that's a credit recovery opportunity for that group. And then the group of students at 6.2, probably our most at risk, at need group, who have not met either as they walk into and get closest to their senior year ending. And so as I think about this, I want us to move into what that looks like in those three categories for our student groups. So what's great is that the shifts that happened from last year to this year, our students are moving into this number here in the not met credits or assessments is decreasing across our student groups. So that's a plus. The problem is where they're living next that becomes problematic. And where that movement is happening is a little bit in the met credits and assessments group, but it's moving into met assessments only. And so the met assessments only is increasing. It's good that the not met either is decreasing, but the met assessments only is increasing, which means that, again, that credit recovery opportunity becomes the standard for those students and their opportunity for graduation. And so thinking about that, what that means, and then our met credits only group is kind of holding steady, and we're hoping that moving forward, there's some state law changes that will help that decrease, and there's still an opportunity for those students for the current class of 2018 that we'll talk about near the end.
Dr. Herman, can I clarify that, say the Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, the 48, is that at that 14%, is the total, or are we talking about, what does the 48 signify, I guess?
The number of students.
The which of students?
The number of students.
It's the percentage of students. Oh, the 48 here. Oh, these are counts of students. They're all counts of students. So the class of 2018 has 48 Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islander students identified. No, I'm sorry, it just didn't. There wasn't a way to fit the text and make it visible in the slides. I'm sorry. I was like, I'm sorry. Where are we?
I just wanted to make sure.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on the previous slides. The numbers should hold constant as we go through, so the counts are consistent. It's just a reminder of how many students make up that group. And then again, with our English language learners, low income and special education students, the same pattern holds true. So we see the decreases in the did not meet either of the requirements, but the movement is happening in the met assessments only, and then met credit assessments. So really great that they're moving in this direction with meeting both requirements. Not so great that they're living in the middle. It's a step in the progress in the right direction, but what we really need to see is that intersection. And so what I said we talk about before we closed is engrossed substitute House Bill 2224. We talked about this a little bit last year and what that meant for prior graduating classes. The law created an interesting challenge, but a great opportunity for our students who are currently seated in the class of 2018 who have not met the assessment requirements. And what the state released just last week was the process for how class of 2018 students can get that appeal waived if they haven't met their assessment requirements in time for graduation. So they are opening up the window as of June 1st for students who have not met their assessment requirements, ELA or math or both, but have met their credit requirements according to their district or the state, so that they can meet their overall graduation requirements and proceed toward graduation and receiving a diploma. And so I've worked with principals, talked with principals, communicated with high school principals, well, really all principals who are serving class of 2018 candidates, and talked about what we need to do so that we have the systems in place. So as of June 1, we're ready to move forward with submitting those to the state so we can get the quickest turnaround in preparation for our graduation. So that every student who is eligible under that, and there are some rules around that they have to have attempted the assessment at some point. And that's not a challenge for our students. They've made an attempt. It may have been close, but it may not have been successful. And so that's the first criteria. They have to have completed all the other graduation requirements and have to be on track to complete their courses. So they have to have good faith or good indication that they're going to pass their credits. And that's why the state kind of pushed that window to June 1st to kind of maximize the likelihood of them passing the classes and then being able to submit that in time. And so we're working through making sure all of that is done so that we can get that, and hopefully that group that was sitting in that 6.2% that had met the credits only can move into our meeting both requirements and get closer. And then it's a huge opportunity for our students to move forward in their post-secondary options and opportunities. So that's where we are with the class of 2018 in terms of preparation for graduation. That's where the current House bill sits and where OSPI is in that to think about what our options are and alternatives are for our students. And so I'll open it up to questions or discussion.
All right, start this way.
Sure. So one thing that would be helpful for me in the future is to actually be able to see last year's numbers compared to this year's numbers. I know it's a different group of students, but it helps give me some idea about what's
better.
Yeah. And then as far as a question, so what are we doing today to help our juniors or our sophomores so that next year we're better prepared? I mean, do we have things in place as far as, especially on credits? Do our students understand what credits they need to take, and how do we make sure that it's not, and I know it's not just a senior year focus, but
absolutely,
what are we doing and what are the steps that we're taking in prior years?
So we've always had conversations, and the counselors have been involved in kind of the master scheduling and scheduling of students for their progression toward graduation and making sure that they're aware of their options for credit attainment. We've had a robust credit recovery program, but our schools are really maximizing that with offering credit recovery not just in the summer, but during the school year as well as an option. It really is a question of how are we going to innovate this moving forward? And it speaks to the challenge of what is around the corner for us as a district and as a state. So we've known for some time that Core 24 is coming, and you kind of open this door without asking that question of how are we preparing our students for that? And it's not the shift in the number of credits that becomes significant. It's in what areas where it becomes important. So the number of ELA requirements, the number of math requirements, the number of science requirements. And so the law and the rules around that are tight, but there's some room around cross-crediting, cross-credentialing, making sure that we are aware of that and really maximizing that. And was having conversations just the other day about how do we inform our schools and making sure that as a district, our systems are in place so that those cross-credit pieces are evident in our Skyward systems so that we know when a student has taken a course that maybe checks 2 boxes. So an elective could check multiple boxes rather than just an elective course. And so that we're aware of that and we're maximizing that under the law as well, so that it doesn't become an opportunity under 4 years, 6 credits, and then no room for exploration of other opportunities, or it's an absolute pass-fail.
Can I ask a question regarding that? I know other school districts are trying different things like trimesters and additional periods. Maybe this is a work session, but.
So I can quickly we won't get into lots of details about that, but there are lots of options on the table for districts around Core 24. So some districts are trying trimesters. Some are trying a 7-period day. Others have tried block schedule, which is the idea of essentially taking semesters long work and opening it up to being more like 8 courses of credit during a year, because you take 4 intensive credits in the fall and 4 more in the spring. As well as extended school day. They're really trying to flex that. And then the other option that's still available from the state board is the waiver. So as schools try to figure that out, because some of the considerations that go along with that, space, financial fiscal resources, transportation pieces, all of those things that go into figuring that out. So there are districts across the state that have exercised any of those 4 options and everything in between. There are some districts who even have multiple models running, and I can't imagine what that would be like. So they have some high schools on a block schedule, others on a 7-period day.
But are we headed in one particular direction?
So right now, our plan, even before with our principals, has been we've done 23 credits, and adding an additional credit should not be a problem. I would like for us as a district to maybe reconsider that, possibly during a work session or another conversation, because if credit attainment is our student struggle, because now there's provision under the law around our assessment waiver, then how are we maximizing that other opportunity for our students?
All right. Director Hardy.
Yes. So I'm looking at, come back to these percent meeting credit requirements, and we look overall. I'm looking at the less than 20 and trying to figure that out. But if you go to the next page, which is that one there, it's this kind of like flaw of averages. We don't really have a bunch of groups hovering around 15%. We have the sum down by 10, and we have a significant 3 groups over 20%, meaning not meeting is over 1 out of 5 kids. What are those, in general, what are those barriers to getting those credits? And then do we have any specific programs addressing those specific groups and kind of having them make up, whatever credits they need, credit recovery, as you mentioned?
So I think a big challenge is just changing mindset, I think. So it's no secret, more than likely, who the struggling students are living in that 15%. So they are students with significant needs to students who are at risk. I think about REL students. So we have a very diverse school district, but we have students who come into our district at high school who are needing EL supports that most districts wouldn't consider being a need at a high school level. And so all of those things complicate what is the culture, and so this is my real answer, of a culture of graduation is kind of a high school problem. And I think it's about changing that sensibility and that mindset district-wide about everyone kind of owns a piece of graduation, and not in you're obligated to start teaching high school content in middle school and those kinds of things, but really thinking about finishing that year strong and finishing that year well so that they are prepared for the next grade level. And then that way, everyone has contributed to graduation. Or as we think about students who come in and have deficits, have gaps, who need supports, how are we building that in? And so there are structures, but I think it's about changing that mindset and then building those pieces into the other grade levels, and then ensuring that we've got a strong, then kind of intensive support model for high school for those who still have that need.
And thank you. Because I want to know more about, like, when you get to this, met credits only. So you got people that they're in school, they're doing what they need to do. It's just the state assessment that for whatever reason they don't have both. And granted, it's new. 2022-24 is new. So there may have been less options before. When we talk about has attempted one at least one graduation alternative, what does that mean? And are we expanding graduation alternatives to help meet those criteria if they've done everything else? So the unfortunate good news for Kent is that our students have done a great job of maximizing those. And that's why I think our meeting assessment requirement piece is so high, is because the state has always had options of using SAT or ACT, of having alternatives for inclusive ed or other students. They've done away with the portfolio work, but they've been open to using other assessments other than the state assessment for those pieces. And then the last flexibility that they added is the waiver completely of the student being able to show demonstration of mastery through another way, and that's through enrollment in
a 2-year post-secondary experience or a 4-year post-secondary experience, enlistment in the military. So they've really opened up and expanded what that is. But our students historically have really managed to flex those opportunities and really kind of master that. And this just kind of kicks down that last door on that side. But that's what that means.
And you clarify, because I'm going to do a rough number. There's maybe like 100 kids who have met credits only based on the numbers you have there. Do we have a dedicated resource here that helps put through these expedited assessment appeals, or is it down at the school level? Where is that?
No. So yes, it rests with me, because OSPI thought it was an awesome idea to have one district person, who they call the district assessment coordinator, the DAC, submit those. And so I don't think they considered what that meant for large school districts. Because you literally have to go through and you have to hand enter. We thought it was going to be an upload piece. So we submit an Excel file that has student name, what waiver they're expressing, how we believe they've met the credit. Nope, one by one, we have to hand enter what is required. So that's another reason why I want to start this as early as possible, so that we can get them through as quickly as possible. I've been pushing the state on that a little bit, because I think our larger districts have that other challenge. It's not just a Kent problem, it's a, right. And I don't think they really thought that through that way.
At least, because I think this is, you said June 1st. This might open up. So at least we're coordinating this at the district level to try to get all these through and put through.
And so I'm enlisting other help to do that. And we're already working on that plan of who can, I guess it's not, we're working on a plan to do that. I don't want to get into the details of that, just because it's good practice for our students. It's good practice for the district. It's probably not best practice in some other ways. But for our students' sake, for our family's sake, we want to make sure we're maximizing that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the students that have 20 to 23 credits, that's where they stand right now. And if they get 3 credits, or how many ever they're taking this semester, they should be fine. So we don't really know how many students in there might make it or might not, but they're likely?
No, right. I didn't get into the who's got a C+ versus who's hovering at a D-. I just took it as if they are living their current year and trying to finish strong. And I'd like to believe that every senior is trying to do everything they can to graduate, that they have their shot at getting there. So I didn't get into what grade point really was the difference. So no.
And the other thing that I'm looking at is the district percent that met assessments in math. And we've got 91.6% students who met their requirements in math. And recently we looked at the assessments for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, and they were going down, 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 down. And now all of a sudden we've got students up doing really well in math. And is it, I mean, this is like a rhetorical question. I don't expect an answer right now, but is it developmentally appropriate what we're doing for them in K through whatever, 3, 2? Is our curriculum adjusted to the testing? I mean, does it match the Washington State standards?
So I think it's a little bit, it's really interesting how assessment is tied to graduation, because assessment prior to high school is a one snapshot, once in a moment, once in a lifetime deal. So you take the 3rd grade test at the end of 3rd grade, you take the 6th grade test at the end of 6th grade, that kind of thing. At high school, there is a set year where you take it the first time, so 10th grade under current law. But if you aren't successful, you can continue to take that test at multiple opportunities throughout the year and the subsequent years if you choose. Now there are other ways to do that. So I think another reason why our MET assessments is so high at high school is because where our other students only have that one shot, once in a moment time to do it, our high schoolers have multiple opportunities to continue to meet that requirement over time, and that is reflected here. So they keep trying because you can't graduate without it. And under previous law, you couldn't, and now there are other alternatives to that. So. But yes, the other part, we can talk about that later.
So I have a couple of questions. One, I just want to touch on the fact that the 3 student groups that typically underperform are continuing to underperform. 66%, 68%, less than 70% for those groups. I'm wondering, when you talk about improvement, has the improvement been So has the improvement increased the gap, or has it, so for example, what I'm saying is, has the improvement that happened, let's take our Hispanic Latino kids, has it been proportional to the improvement that happened with our Asian or our white kids? And is the gap widening, or is one group improving more than the other, or what does that look like?
So as a technical description of this, I'd say that we are closing the gap. Low would be how you typically describe that, meaning that other groups are holding steady or slightly declining, and that group is raising. So what we would like to do when there's work to do, and none of our groups are at that 100%, is close high. So meaning that how do we accelerate those lower attainment groups while other groups are continuing to rise? And so, yes, it is a function of steady wavering for other groups while that other is closing, but that's not our goal. We want both groups to rise and one to rise to meet that. And that's going to be the bigger challenge of how do we accelerate that group while another continues to move up.
And so, unfortunately, this is not new. This has been the data for the last several years. So, and I haven't seen a lot of movement, so 1 or 2, 3%. So I'm really interested in what the district is doing as a district to help address these disparities that continue to exist among our students of color.
So we don't have a differentiated plan around that in a formal way. I know our schools, when they think about service models and that kind of thing, they serve at-risk students and not in a students of color model. Something that we've talked about that came up in our work session was how do we build and think about equity-based budgeting, equity-based kind of programming and thinking about that. And so that's something for us to consider as a district of how do we navigate, preserve, place resources to meet our outcomes.
And so that's another thing I'm curious, with the budget, with considering the professional development that needs to happen for the support of those kids, I would hope that we are providing adequate resources, and that is a target focus of our professional development for our staff and our support folks to help address these issues.
So, spoiler alert on a loosely related presentation in the coming board meeting and work session. It's budget season, and in budget planning for next year, we are thinking about building some of those things back in because, again, thinking about outcomes, thinking about what's needed for our adults so that our children are ready. And so you will hear more about that as a board. You'll see more about that, of where we're putting that, why that's showing back up, how we're proposing funding some of those things. And so we are thinking about that and building that back in.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will just reaffirm the concern I have with the Core 24. We've talked about it for years, and I would really like to see our district have a plan. So if it's a work session, whatever that's required. And I also want to just mention, yes, looking at the numbers for our students of color, it being Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and their numbers are the lowest that we see there. It really makes me wonder, how we can use our partners more effectively. Obviously there are fantastic students. How do we get them more involved in becoming mentors to our other students, whether it's coming down to our lower grades, earlier years? I don't know, but we need to be more creative, given that we have our budget restraints. We need to be more open in looking at those who are successful and who have been able to assist, for lack of a better word, other students. Okay. So with that, thank you, Dr. Harmon.
Duly
Appreciate
noted. I
it.
made some notes. Thank you.
All right. We are up to 4.0, Board of Directors discussion, and we are going to talk about the formation of a Community Advisory Committee. The board will discuss the establishment of a Community Advisory Committee for the purpose of providing feedback on the Kent School District's performance against the strategic goals. Additionally, the Community Advisory Committee will gather information to advise the board on any misalignment, underperformance, or inefficiency, make recommendations, and communicate such to all stakeholders. As background, this is, we are starting discussions on committees, mainly involving our public, because we know that our communities have not been integrally involved with many of our operations, and we are hearing it loud and clear. And so our Finance Committee was the first under discussion, and Director Hardy has put in a proposal for a Community Advisory Committee, so he will lead us, the board, in a discussion. There will not be any approvals made tonight, but it'll be a discussion, and we'll go from here. All right? So I will turn it over to Director Hardy. And
Sure. It's short here, and I know I've shared this with you. So the background came from kind of two sources. One was coming on board as a new director, meeting other board directors, especially they were new, Seattle, Renton, Lake Washington. They had several standing committees. We had none, at least at the time. I know we had committees in the past, various things. And you reach outside even to the Kent City Council, a lot of standing committees where you have smaller work groups that do things. They include board members, they include community members. We didn't have any. And as kind of going through a lot of what we've been through over the last 3 months, individually as board members, I see us struggle to get as much as we can individually from all the people we talk to week, and then bring it here and just say it as much as we can during our reports. And then, of course, I struggle mightily to not engage in the dialogue when people come up and speak publicly, because I want to talk, I want to answer your questions. So the Community Advisory Committee is a way to bring that together. At least it's the first step at it. Similar committees exist. So there are other policies and procedures to draw from in terms of how often they meet, who are they made up of, how much control do we have, what do they do. The idea of this is to have community partners, people who are in our community, volunteering, mentoring, whatever it is, that represent parts of our community. They could be teachers, they could be people who work at the library and do whatever they need to do. But they bring stuff together, and they specifically look at, from the outside, from the community, how are we performing against our strategic goals? Are we walking the talk? Is there a misalignment? Is there underperformance? Is there inefficiency that's observable outside? Prepare a regular report and then have it present to the board on a semi-regular basis. We can determine what that is, but that's the idea.
So when I read this, the first thing I thought of is it kind of, in some ways, mirrored a little bit what we'd started with our strategic plan and our strategic planning committee, and what we had asked for that committee to do. And so part of me goes, okay, so could we somehow align it to that, or bring it so that it was that? Because that was one thing that I know that I kind of felt like we haven't done really well at, is actually having that a committee come together and really looking at that strategic plan and those goals and where we're doing against, and how we're doing with those, and how we're communicating that out. So on first blush, that was the first thing that came to my mind is, I know we'd had quite a large committee. I know this one was smaller. And is there a blended type thing that we could do along that line?
Yeah.
Sorry. Karen?
Yeah, no, I think it's yeah, it's a great idea, and I think in addition to so there's been a lot of questions about the strategic planning committee. People are wondering who is on the committee, and so I think I do like the idea of maybe bringing some folks back together to have those conversations. Has there been any follow-up meetings with this since the strategic plan was adopted? Have there been any follow-up meetings with the committee?
There have been some, but it's been a while now. So it was earlier on. I don't think we've had any recently. So So at the very beginning there was, but not recently, so.
Okay. Yeah, now that you mention it, I mean, that's what the strategic planning committee was supposed to be doing, so.
It is.
So do we know why? Pardon? Do we know why there have not been any meetings?
Do we know why there's not been any meetings? There hasn't been any meetings because we have not formed those meetings. What we have done, and I will say for those who've seen our community conversation feedback, the individuals who are amongst our community who've provided input, we asked several questions. We did receive many responses. We also asked, after seeking input, who wishes to be a part of our standing steering committees. So 4 goals, 4 steering committees. Those individuals would volunteer to serve on those committees to provide advice, input, just as we were speaking now, to give our board, our community, our Kent School District feedback on how we're doing. Are we meeting our goals? Are we falling short, or are we exceeding? And if so, if we're exceeding, and in some ways we were the first year and a half of our blueprint, do we need to expand our goals or simply change them? So those are conversations. It's been a slower start than what we would have planned, obviously. There's been a few things that have, I would say, have presented a barrier, not an excuse, but a reason. We have a community conversation, a new reality of input that we're gaining from our community. Right now, the latest data, and I'll check with our communications director, Melissa Laramie, and team, we had 19% as of last publication of those who participated in the survey to commit or volunteer their time to serve on either one or more of the committees. So we're looking for more feedback. Those committees will be formed, and we will begin that process of listening, capturing data, and then reporting out to you and to our communities.
So I don't know if you understood my question. The original steering committee. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking there were follow-up meetings for that committee. That's what I'm asking. So that committee that originally developed.
That helped form the blueprint.
Yeah,
Okay, I did not understand that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking is, as far as why have there not been meetings that have continued, if that was the goal, if that was what was supposed to be happening? I'm just wondering what was the challenge?
I know we did find that the number of people that showed up went way down. So at the very beginning, we had quite a few, and then it got really hard to get people there, which probably means we need to do it differently.
And I will say that. I will also say, again, our purpose was to create a committee that initial committee was designed to help create the strategic plan. After our metrics were, and we're still finalizing actually some that have changed, after the strategic plan was completed, our goal was then to seek input from who wanted to be on the committee, and that took obviously a lot longer than what we would have wanted to. This community conversations allowed us to gain input. We'll have those committees established that are different from the list. The original list had 125 of our community members who are ready, and I would imagine some of those same individuals will be a part of our revised 4 strategic planning steering committees.
And so my thought is they would have to be educated as to, because I know the original committee is the one who came up with this, so they'd have to be, these other folks would have to be educated as to
what it is,
right,
why it exists,
and so
what our purpose is.
So that seems like that might take some doing and some time as well.
I think we can capture 2 birds with one net. One is communicating the why. We've done that thus far in our community conversations. We're recruiting individuals. If you care more deeply about student success, academic, social, applied learning, if you care more deeply about two-way meaningful communication, being more effective and efficient in our communication to and from home, living room, classroom, if you care more deeply about organizational effectiveness, budget, technology, if you care more deeply about premier diverse workforce. Those are our 4 committees, and we, again, seek input from our community. Today is another example. We can recruit. Our communications department will be continuing to seek members of our community to be a part of our continuous improvement process. That's how we're going to get better.
And I think why I brought this was to see if the board wants a committee separate from those committees, that is directly the board with the community, no administration in the middle. Is that something we want to form on our own and say, yeah, it could be informal, it may not recommend things that we take action on here, but frankly, I'd like it to provide a report at this meeting, separate from just general public comment. So that's the discussion here is, rather than morphing this into one of the existing committees or that may be revived, I don't know all the committees we have or have had, do we have an interest in forming a separate committee, taking direct input from the community on a regular basis, separate from the other ones we've done before?
Yeah, I do see that having a committee that's separate, where particularly, when we talk about community, we have to really question what that means. That also means our teachers who live in our district, their parents. So, I think information, whether it's an exit interview, of staff members that we're not privy to, that someone would like to share with the board, so we can see if there are patterns arising, we can nip things in the bud earlier. I see value in that, that people feel comfortable in discussing with the board where they may feel some sort of restriction in speaking loudly to staff about their discontent or dissatisfaction. So I don't know, I do see some value in the sense that we're not trying to go after the district, but we're trying to get ahead of any potential concerns that might arise and address that as a board.
I guess if I can just clarify a little bit, because I'm hearing different things, right? So one thing I'm hearing, Maya, what you're saying sounds to me more like community conversations of having, well, I'm just saying, right, what I'm hearing is it sounds like community, because when I look at this of being 12 members approximately who's having, and again, we'd have to talk about what that membership looks like and how we do it. And then I think, there's great value in hearing from our community. There were specific things in here as far as if they're looking at strategic plan, but we're saying, okay, we don't want district involved. So I'm like, okay, so how are we getting the information to them and how are they giving us feedback? So I guess there's just a whole lot more
and that's
things
what
that we need to have conversation
right.
on.
I want to see, what do we go forward? Do we want something more informal, something to where we identify community partners, and we each do this, we can figure out the format of how we pick who does what, but, do we want it less informal and more of taking what we hear and bringing it together and having more formal presentations here to the board during a general meeting, and then having that discussion both with us and then facilitating a community discussion among those committee members as well.
Yeah, I think, even if it's 12 members, they may be citizens who have connections, a wide range of connections. And so if they can be the conduit between the board and the community, I think that would really assist us in not waiting till the end when there's really difficult issues we're facing, but we at least get some advance notice of what's churning.
And I want to kind of ring fence this too, because I didn't want this to be a way to go around the normal internal grievance or complaint process or anything like that. Like the processes and the protocols would stay in place, and this is more an informal setting to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's important that it's not district-led. So I think it should be. I think it should definitely be more informal and not, I think that's because we have those conduits as well, right? So I think it's important for this to actually be community, informal, with, again, I think one of the important things, like you talked about, though, is to really make sure that folks know where our purview is, right? And what can we do? What is our, responsibility as a board member? What are our limits and what are our, what are we capable of of doing and what, how us versus acting as a board versus our individual opinions about things and those types of things, I think it'd be important to share. But I definitely like the community-led, the informal would be.
I think we need to make sure that the makeup of the committee matches the demographics of our district, because at the community conversations, it did not.
Right.
And I think there are a lot of people out there who need to have their voices heard that aren't being heard. And we need to make sure we invite them to do that also, because there are issues there that may not have been conveyed at all at the community conversations.
I mean, yeah, it could be selection by, just the people we know. I don't know. There could be nominations.
Yeah.
How that works.
Yeah, and I think that's where, I can bring, there's a lot more detail. There's at least 3 school districts that have something very specific to this, and bring that up, and we can see if using their existing policies and procedures help us kind of work session and hammer out what we want this to look like next.
I think student voice is important as well.
Yep.
So I think we really need to be intentional about including student voice.
And I think as we look at it and do a work session on it, one of the things that I think we need to figure out is what is the why? What are we really, what are we looking at, and what type of thing? Because if you make it so broad, you'll never get really any, and I think it needs to be broad, but how broad is broad, and is there something that we're really specifically looking for?
Well, if we can stick to the strategic goals, and say, well, this is what it falls under, and always come back to our strategic goals and how we're addressing that. I think that would be beneficial to anyone working on that particular.
But then I'd also want to look at, if we're having 4 committees already on that, I don't want to duplicate too much work, and so just more conversation to have on it, right? Because I think there's lots of things that we could do when we look at equity, right? That it's a great one to have more conversation on. And so.
I hear purpose and advice. I hear input and I hear feedback. And so that would also be an important piece, determining who is sitting on committees, who's receiving information, and if it's information that is important for, as we mentioned, members of the entire community, whether it's staff, teachers, school board directors, students, that those individuals are represented in some way for consideration.
All right. Okay, good discussion. All right, next is our consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an agenda item from the discussion, please?
Can I just get a clarification? There's nothing under 5.07, so just making sure that that's correct.
Correct.
Sorry.
There's nothing there.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? I would like to pull 5.08. Let's see. That would be 5.08, the vouchers. All right. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 5.08.
I submit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes. And 5.08, if we don't have the answer tonight, that's fine. I'm curious about, on page 5 of the vouchers, we're talking about music and arts instrument repairs. And just sort of curious about the repairs. Are we getting competitive bids? How that process is going? It just seems like it's a lot of money that we would need to spend on repairs. So I don't know if is there anyone who can answer today, Dr. Watts?
What we'll do is we will research, yes. Dr. Harmon is coming to the podium, but I know that there are some conversations we've had about musical instruments and repairs, as well as different organizations that provided support. Okay. Dr. Harmon can speak to additional information.
So I can't get you, I don't know off the top of my head every level of detail of what goes into the exact dollars of like what specific instruments were related to that particular cost. I know that we, in teaching and learning, have a budget where we help support the schools with repairs for instruments, especially our elementary schools, with some of those district-provided instruments as well. And it's part of that just wear, and sometimes it goes as repairs, but it's just wear and tear and maintenance. It's not always just repair, but as far as the kind of bidding process, I can check into that for you and get you as to how many.
I'd like to know if there's a central.
And how many are there versus how many are not? I mean, so is it increased this month because it was more instruments versus last, but we can research that and get that to you.
And just if all of our schools are using different sources, if there's some sort of inefficiency in not getting competitive bids on that.
And so we've talked about trying to find maybe a competitive partner, even as far as rentals too. So we'll pull that together and be able to share that with you.
Okay, thank you. And finally, I just wanted to ask about the auditing. I'm assuming these are the state auditors.
Yes.
For the central.
As I've said before, they come and visit us every spring, and we have to pay them, even though it's a requirement by state law.
Okay. I'll make sure that's
I would prefer to not have them come, but to not have to pay, but we do have to pay.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harmon. All right, so I would like to ask for a motion to approve 5.08 on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, motion passes, and we are up to 6.0, Board of Directors informational on the February 2018 and March 2018 financial statements. Are there any questions, discussions, comments? All right. 7.0 communication from the audience. All right, we are going to begin with our students. And as mentioned, 3 minutes to our students. We are listening for understanding. We won't be commenting tonight. And information and questions are going on our FAQs on the website. So you'll see answers there. And let's see, we're starting with our students, but, we want to make sure that everyone is respectful of our current and former staff members, and there are no personal names mentioned. If there are any attacks, please be civil. And we will start with Adobe Digby. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Adobe Digby. And then Cindy Bayo. Then B.U. Abraham. Moises Rezo Perez. So Adobe is first up. Please come to the right-hand podium and
I go to I-Grad, and I guess I don't know. Part of the reason I guess I really like I-Grad. They're really flexible in terms of like scheduling or just getting set up for classes or just managing time and stuff like that. Like the scheduling, you can go to attend like morning sessions and afternoons and stuff, and it's been really helpful. And I just feel like, I don't know, the teachers really work hard to I guess provide for you, and they really put you first. So if you need help for anything, or if you go talk to them, most of the time it's just trying to get you where you want to be at, or maybe they notice where you at right now and they try to, I don't know, just understand, or try to find a spot for you. So I guess it's really amazing, and it just makes it what it is for its flexibility, and its way of being able to I don't know, like communicate with students or stuff like that, because like a recent incident that happened at my house. You know, I had to go away for a while, and I couldn't attend school. So, you know, I was worrying. I didn't know what to do. I thought that was it. I thought that was probably it. So I was thinking about that while I was going to go talk to the counselor about it. And I remember telling her, and, you know, right when I told her about it, and she's like, "Oh, you know, it's okay. This is what we're gonna do for you. You know, we're gonna do this for you. We're gonna provide this for you. We're gonna talk to so and so." And I don't know. It was amazing because I thought that was it, because I didn't know what to do. So it's just amazing for that type of resources to be available, and that flexibility. And I think that it just makes I-Grad what it is, and how kids are being able to work, because there's stuff that happens at home that you may not be able to, you know, control, you know. So, and it's amazing that they really put you forward and try to do what you have to do. And I guess, I don't know, it really means a lot to me. I-Grad means a lot, and I think I speak for the students that attend today, that and on the behalf of, you know, the students that couldn't make it. And it's nice to keep these resources and flexibility around for a long time. So, yeah.
I attend I-Grad as well. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who is here to listen to what we have to say, and thank you for the support from every one of you guys, because you guys made it possible for a lot of things to happen. So thank you very much. I really like I-Grad because naturally I'm a very, very shy person, but with I-Grad, I am able to express myself more, because I have teachers who always really pay attention to me and other students. And it's really good to have teachers who really pay attention to you, because we don't have much, I don't have much things to say. I just wanted to say I love my school. I love the opportunities I have, and this has made me grow, not just as a student, but as a person. And it's, I'm thankful that I'm able to rely on my teachers and my fellow students. I'm very thankful, and I would really, really, really like for you guys to help continue pushing us forward. Thank you very much.
I have BJ Abraham. If all of our students can please state your name first before you start. Thank you.
Hi, my name is BJ Abraham, and before I start, I would like to thank the school board and everyone that's helping students achieve their goals in life. And before I start, after that, I was a lazy student, and I didn't want to go to school. But then when I found I-Grad, it helped me out so much. It had extended hours instead of regular schools where it's just 7 to 3, and I don't really like the normal school. But then when I heard about I-Grad, I was surprised because I didn't know they had that. And then when I heard that they have more opportunities in school and achieving your stuff, achieving your diploma and GED, I was surprised and happy that I could at least get a job to help out and just like study more and like achieve my goals. And that would be all. Thank you.
Moises Rezo Perez.
Hello, my name is Moises, and what I would like to say is that I-Grad is really important for me. When I was in high school in Kentwood, I was attending to Kentwood. I needed help with my credits, and now that I found I-Grad, I think, well, in my opinion, I think I-Grad is important for me and for the students that are in this place right here. And I think it's a big opportunity for all of us, like to graduate and go to college. And I don't know. I feel like my schedule for me, like it's more like flexible to do more stuff like at home and in school. Like, and I feel like comfortable being an I-Grad. So I really think that you guys could. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel I'm really shy. Sorry. Yeah. And I just feel like I-Grad is a really good program, so yeah.
All right, we are, next up is Demulia Wilson, followed by Alexander Huynh. Yeah, Ledson Apollon, and Zena Abraham. Okay, Demulia.
My name is Demario Wilson, and I-Grad is a very supportive system to where students could engage in working, and if I feel like students have more one-on-one time with teachers, and it's just supportive because you don't see that at most regular high schools, and I-Grad is just very different, it's more diverse, and I just feel like it's just a good support system that most schools don't have, so it holds a good opportunity. So I just feel like I-Grad just find the way it is. It's flexible. It's perfect for me. For other students who see it as a good thing, a good change for them, and I-Grad helps students move forward through life. Just because of the opportunities that it holds. So for my people, I think that I-Grad is just find the way it is. So.
Alexander.
Alright, my name is Alex, Alexander Huynh, and like all the other students before me, I go to I-Grad. I-Grad is important to me since I got my GED from there, so I already got graduated, you know, and they supported me a lot, you know, all the counselors and everything, and I was like doing like every bad thing you can imagine, but they gave me a second chance, you know, and now I'm like working at City Hall, you know, for human resources and stuff, and it really helped me out a lot.
That's great.
And that's it.
Okay, apologize mispronouncing Ledson. All right.
Hello, my name is Ledson. Like others before me, I'm going to speak about I-Grad. But unlike everybody else, to me, I-Grad is more than just a system. It's more of a family to me. I got guys like Samson, who's the social worker, got Jeff, who's the security guard at I-Grad, Mr. Danino, Mrs. Quinn, Mrs. Jackson. Like everybody there is a family to me. They help me out with my schoolwork. It's like a strict parent, like, hey, you gotta get this done. We're here to help you. We're here to help you graduate, and we're also here to help you figure out what you're gonna do after graduation. Yeah, I-Grad is really, really flexible. Like anything, like if you work in the mornings, for whatever reason, you got kids, you got siblings, you got all this stuff in your life, like the hours are really flexible. You can come in late at night and say, here, we're here for you. Like other schools, there's some teachers that's gonna be late, but I-Grad's always here like, hey, we're here, what do you need? And if you have a kid, like even if you have a kid, like you have a son, daughter, like they'll help you out with that. They're not just like, oh, we're here to help you graduate. No, we're here to help you for your life. We're here for you. You have a kid, like there's diapers, there's food. Like if you don't have enough clothes, like if you don't have shorts, you don't have like formal wear, they have like clothes bank. They're also connected to Goodwill, United Way, like they're connected everywhere. And that's all for you. Like if you don't feel like you're gonna graduate on time and you're not gonna graduate on time, they said, hey, we're here for you. If you don't feel like you don't have a home, we're here for you. If you don't have clothes, we're here for you. So I-Grad is like more like a family to me. It means a lot to me. I would like it to stay longer. Thank you.
All right, Zena Abraham, followed by Kim Quinn, Michelle Bettinger.
Okay, my name is Zena Abraham, and I go to I-Grad. And to me, I-Grad is just like what Eddie said, Eletson said. I-Grad is like a home to me. It's like a family, and like I like the fact that like it's really flexible and like I have time, like, cause for me, I went through a lot of things, and like I have little siblings that I got to take care of because I'm the oldest. So I babysit during the day sometimes, and I'm able to come in later on knowing that I-Grad is open for me to come in and like do my work, and like I can go at my own pace without being rushed, and like the teachers are there to like help me at whatever pace I need to go at, and like they don't like rush you. Like they kind of do because they want you to finish, but like but like not really. Like they'll rush you like a little bit, but like not that much, and then but like they'll go at your own pace. Like they'll let you go at your own pace. Like they want you to finish, and like they want you to be comfortable. And right now I'm doing this internship with Renton Tech and the Youth Aerospace, and because of I was introduced to the internship because of I-Grad. Like if it wasn't for I-Grad, I wouldn't have been into the internship. And now that I'm into this internship, like I've seen that there's a lot of like opportunities for me, and like I've been to different places and like different job sources, and like seen that there's like a lot of opportunities, and like it's like not that hard, and like it's easy to like there's a lot of networking. And I also struggle with like doing financial stuff, and like I-Grad helped me out with it, with like they taught me how to do it, get things done, and like it just helped me a lot. Like I can say I-Grad is like a second home. It's like my family, and like they helped me a lot, and it would be really sad if I-Grad was gone. So I just hope we can keep it longer and let everyone else get the chance to do what we do and got the chance of getting. And yeah.
All right, Kim Quinn.
Hi, I'm a teacher at I-Grad, and I came with a whole bunch of prepared information, but honestly, the students have said it far better than I could. We are a family, and we do care about each other, and I don't believe we could do the job that we're doing if we don't have our own space to be that family, to create our own environment where everyone feels welcomed and appreciated, and looking at your numbers, those students that have less than 20 credits heading into their senior year, those are our kids. Those are the kids that we are here to support. OSPI says that the Open Doors Youth Engagement re-engagement program is a dropout re-engagement system that provides education and service to our older youth, age 16 to 21, who have dropped out of school or who are not expected to graduate high school by the age of 21. These are our kids, and we offer them hope, and they enrich our lives. So, thank you.
Michelle Bettinger, followed by Ron DeLay, followed by Kevin Denich. All right.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Michelle Greenwood Bettinger. The Kent School District is broken and the school board is responsible. I represent 27 KSD for Change, a newly organized group of community members formed to address the issues that are currently affecting the district and the students they are here to support. The goal of this group is to relentlessly pursue an excellent education for every student in the Kent School District. Like these students. They don't have a principal at night. They can't go to night classes. We continue to research and gather evidence to understand the truth and depth of the brokenness in the Kent School District. The ultimate goal is to work with the Kent School District School Board to repair the damage done to this district by the current administration. Based on hours of research thus far, the evidence does not support the narrative coming from the district. Our concern is that students, parents, KSD employees, and taxpayers are at risk of being deceived by partial truths and unsupported claims. Tonight, I will provide evidence of 3 major failings. Bluntly, the problems are deeper than many of the Kent School Board members are acknowledging. Sadly, the people elected to represent and protect us have failed in their duties. Example 1, beginning in August 2015, our new superintendent promised to the Kent School Board and stakeholders to deliver a balanced budget. The same promises were made in 2016. Instead, the district is in the deepest financial crisis in decades. Our elected officials and the superintendent they hired are wholly responsible for this financial crisis, while the 27,000 plus students in the district are suffering and the taxpayers are bearing the financial burden. Example 2, 27 KSD for Change has also uncovered strong evidence of a conflict of interest. In February 2018, school board meeting minutes showed that the superintendent asked the board to approve an honorarium that was received for speaking at an event outside the KSD. There is no record of a previous request to do so. This is in direct violation of the superintendent's contract and Washington State conflict of interest laws. Acting as representatives of their electorate, it is incumbent on the school board to take disciplinary action, but they did not do so. Instead, they approved the request and became complicit.
A reminder that we are not addressing specific allegations against any individual. You can give those to the board, but we're not addressing those in public session. Thank you.
The KEA teachers, parents, and taxpayers repeatedly sounded the alarm. Once the levies were passed, this is example 3, the unprofessional handling of the RIF layoff action created a greater push from stakeholders to have a voice. The school board's response was to literally lock out their constituents. On April 4, 2018, the law was broken. The school board directly violated the Open Public Meeting Act when they locked the doors to the administration building to prevent the public and press from entering a duly noticed meeting. We have 2 additional instances of OPMA violations to the school board. 27 KSD for Change demands the school board seek and act on the evidence going forward. We ask them to diligently follow law and policy as they represent their electorate. We demand they fix the brokenness in the Kent School District. The members of 27 KSD for Change are creating a newsletter to inform and share information to the general public. If you want to add your name to the mailing list, please email 27ksdforchange@gmail.com. That's the number 27 KSD, the number 4, change@gmail.com. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron DeLay. I'm a retired superintendent, a retired director of student services who was a director of special education. I was a director of alternative programs for a school district in Alaska, which included residential facilities and actually the youth prison, the adult prison, special education for those. I was for 12 years actually a complaint investigator for special education for the state of Alaska. The only reason I share that is because I bring to the table some expertise and some things that I have observed. I am now actually a special ed teacher again for I-Grad, and I've been doing that for 2 years. I have known Carol when she first started I-Grad, as a matter of fact. And what I'm concerned about is that I-Grad's been put together for a song, quite literally from a fiscal standpoint. And it does some remarkable things for kids. I realize we're the ugly stepchild to some people because, you know, we didn't get computers from the bond thing. We got the remake, the rehash computers. We don't charge for transportation. We don't have a lunch program. So it's not costing the district a whole lot. But I'm quite concerned that it feels right now like you're step by step starting to dismantle I-Grad. We've lost our assistant principal, who finally was helping Carol not put in 12 and 18-hour days, and we're supposed to be a 12-month school, and now it appears that we're not going to be open this summer. And yet we have contracts out, a number of things that, as you may or may not know, that support a summer program for 12 hours a day. And it looks like next fall, because we don't have, we haven't heard anyway, and we keep on trying to find out what the story is there, that we may go to a regular school, you know, 7:30 to 3:30 kind of thing, which does not serve the population that we're talking about here. And we've also heard rumors that we're not going to exist at all, and we're going to have the 50 or so dropout kids from each of the high schools go back to the high schools and so on. We're a failing school because we only accept dropouts, kind of thing. Well, anyway, what I'm saying is that we need to do better. We need to make sure that these kids, which are a big part of our community, get the 12 hours a day option that they have. If you've never dealt with an alternative school population and so on, yes, you would say, no, we're not going to do 12-hour school days again. Oh, yes, we're going to combine this. We're going to move the whole school over to Kent Meridian. We're going to move it to Phoenix or something. That's if you don't know how to do this, okay? But if you know how to do it, and know how to serve children of this diverse population and the needs that they have, trust me on this one, you must have a separate location. You must be able to provide a 12-hour kind of setup for them. That's the only way it's going to work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyway, trust me.
Kevin, I won't attempt.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Danino. I say I'm much smarter than that De Niro guy, but I am a teacher at I-Grad Academy, and I like to, Ron kind of stole my thunder there. I wasn't on thunder, obviously, but a lot of teachers put in their own personal time, prep time, lunch time to work with students. We try to cover each other. At times I go in another classroom and free up fellow teachers can work one-on-one, and we do a lot of one-on-one with students, no matter what the subject area is. And I also like to address our assistant principal who's leaving on July 30th to go to Kent Meridian. That would basically take away nighttime I-Grad. A lot of these students have other commitments during the day, and they rely on I-Grad at night to come and do their schoolwork, their GED, do their Kent School District Diploma, their Washington State District Diploma. They rely on our social worker, help them find shelter, jobs. We have mental health specialists that kids really need. We're this chair, our security guard talks sports to these kids. I have to kind of quiet them down a little bit. That's okay. We can get additional services. They want to join the sports team over at Kent Meridian, we can help them there, but for some reason they don't want to do it, but any which way. Like I said, Ron took my thunder, and really, we're doing a disservice if we don't have some kind of summer school for the I-Grad. We have Alex, who's doing the internship over at the Kent City Government. We have our Green River kids. We have our Renton Technical, which is coming up in fall. What are the kids going to do for social services this summer? Some just come just for the food, and we don't have a regular cafeteria. And some of our food is very basic, but some of it's all day we've got for these kids. Even last year, we had a kind of fight, from what I've heard, to get some food for the students. And at least that's what I heard. So in parting, I think really need to consider or reconsider your position on I-Grad, or make a decision real soon, at least for the summer school. And think about the kids. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
We have Leslie Hamada, followed by Sarah Vickers, Samson Tekle, followed by Marley Larimer.
Good evening, Board President, Board, and Dr. Watts. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. This evening I'm representing the Kent Community Foundation. We've had a lot of problems that we've been talking about tonight, and I believe in solutions. I know firsthand the value of partnerships between community and schools. Strong communities build strong schools, and strong schools build communities. My purpose in being here tonight is just to emphasize, again, we have a very rich, diverse community interested in helping the arts, which includes music, visual arts, drama, and theater. We are starting a plan as a community with a vision to include all students for opportunities for exposure in some capacity to the arts. We all are aware that, as you've seen tonight, each student is unique. And in special ways, they can relate to school, and not all of it is to one particular thing. And we want to expose them while they're in school to as many opportunities to see different exposures, and the arts is definitely one of them. I've had the pleasure firsthand to be at several senior presentations. And what has always stayed with me is how the student has either connected with something that they love or a relationship in that school that's kept them coming to school. And what remains the same in all of them is a connection, that link, that relationship that gets the buy-in to stay in school and graduate and thrive behind that. I do not have to quote all the studies there are on how the arts and music and theater and visual arts adds to the overall education of kids, because I'm sure you're quite aware of that. And I can provide those later on. I'll be back. One thing about me, I'll be back. Some say, even in my era, the Iron Curtain, bringing it down, was possibly helped by the Beatles. Small known fact. And the glue to hold communities and many organizations together by enhancing our schools is through the arts, through communication, through directions, and perhaps funding. That's what we offer. On May 15th at 5 p.m., we've scheduled a meeting at the Kent Community Foundation, downtown Kent, to begin serious communication, which has already been taking place for some time, about how the community can step up with the arts and aid the community. We offer solutions. You talked about repairs of musical instruments tonight, how that affects your budget. We're all very aware of the budget problems, but your community is here to help. Kent is a very rich, diverse community, and I know they're here to help, and we offer some help in that area. Perhaps we have some partners that could fix those instruments, that would step up and add to your budgets and do it at a pretty good cost. And we hope to walk hand in hand with you, and I do appreciate your time tonight and your commitment to the schools. Thank you.
Dr. Watts, Madam President, and the board, I would like to address district policy or board policy number 5223.
Sorry, excuse me. Would you mind stating your name,
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry. I'm Sarah
Thank you.
Vickers, preschool teacher at Kent Valley Early Learning Center. 5223 addresses conflict of interest. The definition is conflict of interest is any situation in which a district employee, either himself or herself or some other person's attempt to promote a private or personal interest in which results in an appearance of resulting in the following: an interference with the objective exercise of his or her district duties, or a gain or advantage of a virtue of his or her position in the district. Thank you.
Samson Teckley? All right.
Hi, my name is Samson Teckel. I'm a social worker at I-Grad. I think the greatest part about working at I-Grad is that you have a family like this. If you are in support, a student or a teacher, please stand up, just so you know the impact in which kind of some of the changes might affect them. So these students, well, yeah, round of applause, obviously. Round of applause. So they came out of here during their own time to speak and kind of let you know how some of the changes that may be put in place might affect their ability to be successful at I-Grad. And so I know many of you guys, you might think as I-Grad as a safety net, but for some of our students, it's a second or even last chance. Some of them come from homes where they only had one parent. Or there were so many different things that they were dealing with. I'd actually written some, but they kind of said everything for me. And so I'm going to leave you with this, and that, again, if we're successfully preparing all students, we have to consider all these students. They're at I-Grad because they want it. They want to be successful. They want a brighter future for themselves. They want to see the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of them came to I-Grad without very little hope because there was so much against them. And so, when you look at these students, they want it, right? And you can't deny that because, they need a public education, So that's all I'll leave you with. We actually have to go because we got to make sure these students get home safely. But please keep on, continue that conversation with Carol Cleveland. Mary Anderson is watching right now. She's our assistant principal. She's going to be leaving us. Wade, you're getting a great assistant principal. But we really want her back because she does so much. She's, for those of you who follow sports, the Seattle Seahawks, she's like taking Marshawn Lynch from us. Or just Marshawn Lynch leaving us. Just because she works day and night. She starts at 12, even earlier than that, and ends at 9 o'clock to make sure that these students are being successful. She doesn't just do the normal assistant principal stuff. She goes beyond that because she's the only one. So you guys got to keep that in mind because, man, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the time.
Thank you to all our I-Grad students and teachers. Next up is Marley Larimer, followed by Zach Stockdale, Louise Sargent, and Carolyn Kelly.
Thank you. First, I attended the working session earlier, and I want to commend the board for your consensus that the public needs to be involved in some form of audit or finance committee. And specifically, the need that was called out earlier tonight for there to be a public committee that is independent of the district and is works with the board specifically. I think that's entirely important. We obviously are facing a crisis here where there's also a crisis of public trust. And I think that's the only way it's going to be restored is if we can work together independent of the administration to accomplish the goals of transparency and that we're looking for. And actually, it actually refers to it involving the public in these kind of issues. It refers to it in policy number 1102. I was concerned, however, about the working session where there was some question, it seemed, about what the public was looking for. So I just want to speak up and tell you, at least as myself, what I'm looking for from any kind of public involvement in public committee. What we're looking for basically is just transparency. Specifically, I'm really interested in transparency about technology spending. In the community conversations, there was a great pie chart about where the general fund money was being spent. We basically, as voters, just wrote you a $147 million blank check. I think we would like to see a pie chart similar. We'd like to know where that money is going that's being used for technology and capital. To the details, I'd like to know how many servers is it buying, how much curriculum is it buying, what software is it buying, what contracts are being signed for that software, what consulting services are being paid out of that budget. So I just am here tonight to ask for that level of transparency in the money that we just gave you for technology. So, thank you.
Hi, Zach Stockdale, Kent Meridian High School. I had two policies I wanted to address real quick, but first off, I wanted to point something out to the board. Where I sit in the audience, I've been staring right there at Dr. Watts and Maya, and I noticed this giant empty space that's right there, and the fact that the I-Grad flag is sitting off the main podium 2 steps down below all the other flags, and that's been sitting there striking me the entire time I was listening to these wonderful students and teachers talk about I-Grad, and the one who actually pointed out that it felt like the stepchild of the district, and it literally is off the stage and out of the way. So that was just the thing that visually struck me as we're having this conversation. I also want to briefly speak about concerns about Board Policy 62113 or 6213, travel authorization and expense reimbursement. This is a major one we talk about, but it has not been revised or reviewed since February 8th, 2012, which is in violation of other board policies about when policies should be reviewed. It's a short one. I'm not going to read it because they're all on the website. The other one is 6220, purchasing and contracting, bids and contract. Again, this is a really long one that deals with all of the money, all the contracting we have. It was adopted in '94. It's been revised 3 times, but the last time it was even looked at by this board was 4/27/05. So all of the construction we've done has been going on unreviewed, policy that's not been adopted or addressed in over a decade, which is also in violation of other board policy on when policy should be revised. So I encourage the board to adjust their policies. Thank you.
Louise Sargent, followed by Carolyn Kelly.
So, good evening. My name's Louise Sargent. I'm a teacher at Northwood Middle School. I'm a nationally board certified teacher, and I've been in Kent for 29 years. I would like to speak to 2 issues tonight. One is Board Policy 6230, which is a relatively short policy, but I still believe I will only read one sentence from it, which is simply, sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my phone, making things too big and too small. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Maybe I won't read one sentence. Anyway, basically it said you're responsible to maintain fiscal responsibility. That was last reviewed in 2005. You might want to look at it again. However, also, as I've listened to tonight's presentation about graduation and listened to your concerns about the 24 credits that are going to be required soon, I would simply like to say that I believe that you are right to be concerned about that. As I look at students coming up, I see a growing number of students who behave as if they are entitled to get credit for a class. They're entitled to pass because they showed up, not because they learned anything. And I'm wondering if this is perhaps indicative of the generation and the mindset where everyone gets a trophy simply for being on the team. And I believe it is a school challenge, but it's also a growing community challenge. And it is something that you as a board need to plan for now in terms of teaching students the importance of responsibility, the use of class time, and their work habits. The state is requiring us to use a social emotional education curriculum, and I wonder if it would be possible for the board and the Student Instructional Services Department to find a curriculum that adds not just the social emotional, but the responsibility aspect of education to it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Kelly. I am a teacher librarian and technology integration specialist at Carriage Crest Elementary. And I would like to voice my strong support for the creation of a community advisory committee. Speaking at a board meeting is frankly terrifying. And I'm not someone who terrifies easy, but I never knew what knees knocking meant before doing this. A less formal opportunity to have a two-way conversation directly with the board and hear their thoughts and concerns is a big step toward repairing the relationship with the community. I also would encourage you each to go to your specific areas and have a monthly meeting with your school communities. Coming to the board district office is scary for a lot of people, especially community members who may or may not be legally here. I think if you were to meet them at their schools, they would be much more open and willing to talk to you. I would also like to say that I'm horrified that a district is dismantling programs. Some of the most effective programs in our district, like we heard tonight about the I-Grad. I was not aware that that program was being changed in any way, but feel compelled to tell you that why go back to the way things were when you know that doesn't work? That's insanity. Nearly every one of those students came up here and said that the reason I-Grad works for them is that it's not from 7:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. The Technology and Teaching and Learning Department has also been greatly, well, the Teaching and Learning Department was, or the, Integrating Technology Department no longer really exists. The three people in the left are being let go in the end of June. And that was another program that was really working really well. They had developed some really cool technology lessons to help teachers get there with the technology. So many times I see devices being just given to our students or given to our staff, and the staff aren't ready or haven't received the training they need. And if there's no department for the training, who's going to set it up and give them that training? The IT department has won numerous awards. I was floored at how awesome the IT department, how quick they are to fix things that are essential for teachers, that make them not afraid to grab out the laptops. If you've ever had a computer problem, you know how frustrating that is. Imagine having 24 to 30 students sitting in front of you while you have a computer problem, and then tell me we need less IT department. Thank you.
Christy Padilla, followed by Amy Alexander, Shannon Jefferson Hernandez, Brian Matson, Renee Kubota.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Watts and Ms. Howley. Tonight I'd like to address the personnel report. You've probably heard a lot about how everyone is leaving our district. You've probably also heard that the number of retirements and resignations are not out of whack compared to previous years. Every 2 weeks, I also see that personnel report, and especially this last one was very difficult to read because we are losing some amazing leaders in our district, and we're also losing some amazing educators as well as support staff. While I'm excited for them to pursue other opportunities, it is very sad because I know that they're a valuable part of our district. I don't necessarily want to focus on that piece. I want to focus on the people who are left. Most of us are staying. So moving forward, and Leslie said it best about looking at solutions. I'm really interested in this community advisory committee. I'm really hoping that you consider putting teachers. I don't know if it's going to be open or if there's going to be a selection or an interview process, but I think we have seen how respected our teachers are in our community. We have relationships with our parents, our students. We have relationships with outside labor organizations, with community members, and we bring a lot to the table. We are used to working in situations during the good times with limited resources, and we have to come up with creative solutions all the time. And our teachers have a lot of brain power. They're willing to work those extra hours, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that our district is successful. So I'm just asking you to please, instead of having very small groups of people make major decisions that impact literally thousands and thousands of people, to involve the people who are in the buildings, teachers, principals, and support staff. So, thank you very much.
Hi, Amy Alexander, SPED teacher from Matson and past student of Matson. I'm here to bring up policy, School Board Policy 1712, or 1217, sorry, 1712. I'm just going to go into one section of it. It's in regards to Board of Directors conflict of interest. No board member or employee of the board will have a monetary interest, directly or indirectly, in any contract, purchase of materials, or activity paid for from school funds except as permitted by law. This was last reviewed April 13th of 2005.
Shannon Jepson Hernandez, teacher, Mill Creek Middle School, Kent community member and parent. I-Grad is a success story. It's a nationally recognized program funded by grants costing KSD next to nothing. Why would you eliminate that? According to John Hattie, scientific evidence, student-teacher relationships are the highest or one of the highest indicators of success. I-Grad works because they are doing what a nation of educators are begging legislators to provide. KSD, you've already provided that opportunity to pave the way for this nation and show people how it should be done. Yet right now we're considering eliminating this success story. I have spent the last 2 days poring over KSD personnel reports in an attempt to sense what the mass exodus of teachers, leaders, and district staff means for next year. I'm trying my best to envision our future with such qualified professionals missing. How will we effectively prepare students for their futures with such a loss of experience? A few years ago, we had a superintendent transition with about a 50% turnover at the district office level. It was a very trying year for everyone because no one seemed to know what was going on or what their responsibilities were. Today, I envision much worse. I envision classrooms with up to 40 kids per room and not enough chairs or tables. How will they learn standing? I envision a sea of hands waiting for support and not enough time for that teacher to reach them before that bell rings. I envision a space with emotions flying everywhere, direction leading, fly in every direction, leading to fights, bullying, anxiety, and depression, all because there will be less adults to support student needs. Ultimately, I envision trauma and crisis. I also envision schools of children stuck sitting in front of computers day in and day out. How will they learn with limited human support and interaction? This is the actual description of personalized learning, not the one shared with parents. This is not what I want for my students, and it is absolutely not what I want for my children. Directors of the board, we currently have policies and procedures in place along with RCWs to define your responsibilities. I have them all right here highlighted in color. These are the laws, or there are laws, and most of the laws are good evidence for protecting student interests. It is reported, and I have the data, that the school board is at nearly an abysmal 50% compliance for updating the policies and procedures. There are currently up to 7 violations for conflict of interest alone. The green represents what they are in compliance for. The yellow represents what hasn't been updated, as you've heard some of them tonight based on the dates. The red is what is out of compliance. So why are you trying to rewrite blueprints, add new programs, and get rid of 20% of our staff just to add new staff? Shouldn't you know your regulations before you make changes? You should definitely not be in the process of laying off any KSD staff or closing any program like I-Grad until you have a true sense of what you're doing. The only way you can do that is to update your current policies and procedures. Members of the board, please know and use your policy and procedures before you try to adopt or create new ones. And one last request. Please stop listing personnel who are RIFed as resigned on your personnel report. It is bad enough they lost their job. It's beyond offensive that they have to see it labeled as though it was a choice. Honest reporting means call it what it is. A reduction in force is a soft termination and most definitely is not a resignation. For anyone wanting to ask questions, make comments, or provide suggestions, email us at 27ksdforchange@gmail.com. We are here to make sure someone is holding the district accountable. We are organized because we care.
Good evening. I'm Brian Madsen. I didn't actually come here to expect to actually talk about I-Grad, but after listening to the students and the teachers that are here, I have to say, as opposed to being a stepdaughter or a stepson, they certainly seem to be a bright, shining star in Kent School District. And I freely admit, I mean, I know very little about the program, but whether or not those students represent all of them or not, I don't know, but it's obviously made such a significant impact into their lives personally. I can definitely see it extending way beyond anything that high school provides directly. I think the other thing that went through my mind, as was similar brought up with regards to that, is just the fact that, as Denise pointed out, she's concerned about those that are below the 20 credits. And I wonder where that statistic goes if you eliminate a program that does something like I-Grad. So I would just, from the team tonight, just encourage you to look at that and decide if there's a statistical direction that would go that would not be good, and just make sure that there's a program that helps address the needs of those students, because those students are fantastic. I think they're going through hardships that many of us don't understand and haven't lived through. So thankful to all of those that work with them. So the main purpose that I came this evening is I'm a little bit concerned that with the emotional ramp up of the layoff of the teachers and the announcement of that and then the pullback from it, that maybe some of the message has been lost. And so hopefully you take the message that I'm going to give you in its totality, because it's meant that way. So just kind of starting chronologically, if I go back to, frankly, some of the motivation that caused me to want to run for the school board began clear back in February of 2017, then kind of marching forward into April of 2017. And that was the initial need, which I'm not necessarily faulting the need, by the way, but the initial need to borrow the $10 million from the capital fund, which then needed to be repaid at the end of April 2017. And then the need to borrow $15 million, I think it was maybe July, And then I know that that 15 million needed to be repaid, I think technically at the end of this last month of April, and I don't know what the news is on it. And then it was the announcement with regards to the early release time without any input or information from teachers or from parents. And then I marched forward into the levy situation where I feel like there was information that was known but not discussed. And when I approached and mentioned this to all of you back in early April, I'd mentioned the fact that while it was known from last June 2017, the McCleary decision had had an effect on the state legislature and there was an impact, but it wasn't addressed and it wasn't transparent as you thought about the levy. So just to be very short, because obviously I can hear the timer, it feels like, and I'll just say this, and then when we had the meetings in April, my expectation was that with everybody who had stood up the last 3 or 4 months, asking about I-Grad, asking about the music program, asking about the agenda that the district has for curriculum, there was a presentation made that didn't address any of those questions, and the questions that were brought forward, like were in a controlled fashion. I expect the public to be able to address everybody directly, and there should be, and if the district feels that there's a defensible position or that the board does, then you should feel free and open to stand up and answer the questions and just address in a live manner what the concerns are. And I think that's why there's this communication gap and expectation gap. And I just also want to thank the board for addressing this advisory committee, because that goes a long way. Each of you know you're elected by the public, not by the district.
Okay.
And the only way you can get that information is by getting to your own community. So thank you.
Followed by Tammy Jackson and Asma Ahmed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Renee. I'm one of the mental health counselors at I-Grad. So I came here thinking I was not going to speak, but felt compelled because this is important. So this kind of the whole time that kind of the shenanigans have been going on with the budget, I've just been kind of hoping for the best, and to recently hear about the our lovely vice principal being let go. My position, I work for Asian Counseling and Referral Services. We contract with I-Grad. And so, to be honest, I don't know what will happen. I'm not in charge of that collaboration. But I do wonder if not being open in the summer, our hours changing, the terms of the contract shifting dramatically will mean that we will no longer be able to partner. I also just wanted to discuss the word equity because I feel like it's just thrown around a lot. So equity is not equality, right? Equity is giving folks what they need. And the folks at I-Grad, they need a lot. And so I'm sure when you break it down, it's like in the budget, it probably looks like, that you're just like, I-Grad is just hemorrhaging money, right? But that is equity because these kids need it. They need these resources in one place. They need the sense of home. They need a place to have a voice, to belong. And I would hate to see the district decide to throw away the students that, we all sat here and listened to you discuss how to best support them. Committees are great, and also the students are right here telling you what they need. And so I would hope that after all of these testimonies from students and staff, and community members, that you really reconsider what does equity mean for the district, and how is that impacting your decisions with I-Grad? Because I believe if you really do care about social justice, equity, and all students, no students are disposable. And by cutting funding for I-Grad, that is essentially the message that I am receiving. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ms. Jackson, and I am a long-term sub at I-Grad. I started in education probably about 10, 12 years ago with the African American Cultural Center with Mr. Lombard. I was taking care of my elderly parents at that time and walked into the center and just was talking to some students, and he said, you know what, I need you. So he sent me up to East Hill, and they always send me to get with the roughneck little kids and all that, because Miss Jackson don't play that. So I started there, then I was a paraeducator, started at KM. Miss Cleveland was on the committee to first hire me as a paraeducator once my kids graduated from Kent School District. All of my kids graduated from the Kent School District. To make this long story short, I ended up now substituting. This is my 3rd year substituting, and I substitute in Kent and in Renton. And every year that I substitute, I always end up doing some type of long-term assignment. This year, a teacher left from I-Grad, so there I've been for this whole year. But in talking with Miss Cleveland, and Miss Cleveland deserves, I tell you, she works hard. Everybody should give Miss Cleveland, yes. I took this long-term assignment, even though she had to cut a half hour off my substitute pay that I normally get. But these kids at I-Grad are important. The last week, we had 2 kids to finish their assignments and graduate. And when I paraded that student around, the principal was Miss Anderson. We were all fighting back tears and fanning because, you know, there was another student that same week, finished, and are going to be graduating. They come through those doors with 3 credits sometimes, 10 credits, but they stick it out. And the staff, every staff member from I-Grad is here except the ones that are still there tonight. Every staff member. Even me, the substitute's here. Why in the world would I-Grad even be considered to be on the chopping block? It is a national jewel. Everybody in the district should be lifting up I-Grad because of what everything's going on. Boy, I tell you, we need I-Grad. And to cut it for the summer, we have had to keep these kids calm and tell them Miss Cleveland is fighting tooth and nail for you. You just continue to come in here every day and do what you got to do. And it is a family. We're a family, right? And even though I'm a sub, I don't feel like I'm that ugly stepchild. They make me feel like family there. And thank you, Miss Cleveland, once again for everything that you do.
Awesome.
Although I look young, I'm not an I-Grad student. I actually work with I-Grad. So I was a Kent School District graduate, K through 12, and I would look at that all the time and think about if Kent School District was successfully preparing all students for a future. I believe at the time when I was graduating that they weren't, and I think about it now where I'm serving at this alternative school, I-Grad, and these are students that are left behind. It's their last chance. These are students who have children, who have family issues, and I-Grad is the last option, the last stop. And I wonder if I-Grad is no more, where would these students go? Like, how are we going to serve students if I-Grad isn't an avenue anymore for these students? At the beginning of the year, so I work for Seattle Education Access. I'm an education advisor, and so at the beginning of the year, the students that I worked with didn't have education or higher education at the thought. Like, it wasn't a thought for them. It was, I just want to graduate. And now that I'm halfway through a year or almost done with the year, I have students filling out their FAFSA information, wanting to go to college, thinking about their future because of the opportunities that I-Grad provided. I don't have to be at I-Grad. I choose to be at I-Grad because of the potential that these students have that a lot of people overlook. These are really smart students. They just had different circumstances, and they're at a different level, but they're finishing strong, we also have a partnership with Green River, and these students are not only at I-Grad, but they're also enrolled in the college. So not only are they finishing their diploma, they're also finishing up and graduating I-Grad with a potential AA degree. So you're taking away all that opportunity from these students. Zena was talking earlier how she was thinking about aerospace engineering. Zena now is thinking about becoming an engineer. We have Alex up at Green River, not only in the City Hall. So these are students with a name. This is more than just a budget that you guys look at. You guys are really affecting students who didn't have hope in the beginning and now have a lot of opportunities and a lot of, like, I-Grad family. So this is more than just a budget or on your list to tick off. These are students in their lives that you're really affecting.
Those are the cards that we have, and that concludes our communications portion from the audience. Next up is our legislative update, and turn it over to Director Hardy.
Thank you. Well, there's not much that new. The legislators have been out of session for a while. Actually, most of them are back in their districts. One thing I will point out, brought most of them are back in the districts, sending out circulars. Probably seen these, got these, Senator Kaiser and Representative Overwall. And you can see what they're doing. And what I want to highlight is that each one of them is highlighting what they've done. K-12 education funding bill, supplemental operating budgets that got more money across the state, got more money to us. That's the highlight of their short session. I want to just clarify, though, in their minds and across both legislatures, they think that what they've done resolves the McCleary litigation completely, that there is no extra funding, that there is nothing more to come from that. And that anything would just come in normal sessions next year. Supplemental operating budgets, whatever that is. Now, I wanted to pivot on that because a lot of stuff has passed. OSPI and WASDA, they're the ones working to interpret and update these issues. Mentioned it before, but there's finally a very exciting, in quotes, update to the school district accounting manual. But it specifically calls out where we will have to establish a local revenue sub-fund to show in our financial statements how much from our general fund goes to specifically paid for by local revenues, by the levies, and account for that separately than what we get from the school district. So more guidance on that, but applies as we go into 18-19 going forward. But that is all I have.
Okay, Dr. Watts, Superintendent's report, please.
Yes, thank you, President Mangandasalam, members of the board, Ms. Halley, community members. I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. I've begin by reminding, building trust by doing what we believe is best for one group or one individual does little to build trust. When we do that together, that is how we build it brick by brick. So I encourage all of us to listen to what we've said this evening, what we've heard this evening, with good intent. And there's information that I know will be shared that may dispel rumors or will provide some light to some misinformation that is being shared. Given that, I do feel compelled to say that I believe in the efficacy of public education. I believe that each and every one of us in here who is serving formally as a teacher or someone who supports those who teach, to let you know symbolically and beyond this week that we appreciate every day in every way that you reach and teach our students in our classrooms, in our learning environments, at home, to our parents who are our children's most important teachers. This is the week that we celebrate symbolically. It is much broader, much larger than that. To our school nurses, National School Nurse Day is today. And of those two positions, those two roles, I can't think of two more important roles that involve saving lives, literally, as we talk about the fact that when a student can or cannot read or write, it's a difference between the quality of life, choices that he or she can make about health, food choices, quality of living in a neighborhood. And what research has shown, that can actually impact the life the lifespan of a human being by 15 to 20 years. It's the quality of education that he or she gets. Bless you. So I want to thank each and every one who has provided some input for us today to learn, to grow, and then to charge each and every one of us in the spirit of equity. I did hear that. I have heard that word a lot. And so as we think about equity and diversity and inclusion, yes, it does mean the exact opposite of equal. Equity means that we meet each individual where he or she is, and we provide needs based on that individual. But equity by itself is not good enough. Equity needs to lead to equality of outcomes, and we were talking about that this evening. Equality of outcomes means we're all going to get to that end point, that finish line. We may not get there at the same time. Here's the reality. We have a graduation rate that's close to 79%. There are school districts in the state of Washington that are jumping up for joy because 6 years ago, some of our school districts had a graduation rate of 55%. It is relative. So I ask, while that is success for some, tell that, explain that, convince that to the other 21% of our families whose children have not yet crossed the finish line that we call success. In the spirit of equity and equality of outcomes, until we create a system that supports each and every so that all does really mean what it says. And I am not, will never be satisfied, and will remain committed to the work that each and every one of us has signed up for, whether officially or supporting it as a community member. I stand ready to serve and serve alongside our school board members and our community members who are here this evening and those who could not be here but had the desire to. And with that, this weekend for all mothers, mother figures, aunts, grandmothers, those who serve in that capacity, I wish you the happiest of Happy Mother's Day this weekend. Enjoy, you deserve it. For my mom, whose body is no longer with us, who began as a school nurse, I send her a few tulips myself. With that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right. Shall we start? Dr. Denise?
So I, again, appreciate seeing all of you, as always. I too want to let you know that, even though this is Teacher Appreciation Week, you're always appreciated, and I hope that you feel that and know that from all of us. What you do with our students is wonderful, and I've been blessed to have many, many teachers in my life that have made a difference for me and my students. Again, I want to echo what Dr. Watts said. I too, actually it kind of struck me what the young lady said when she graduated, she didn't feel as though we were successfully preparing all students. And so that's a little disappointing to me because I don't know how much progress we've made. And on top of that, I think that it's important for us to realize that status quo is not getting us the results that we need. And I speak to people all the time about, change, what would you do differently? Don't get a lot of responses when it comes to talking about student outcomes, but I want to continue that conversation. I'm really looking forward to the community conversations that we have, the Community Advisory Board, because that is, in my heart, the number one reason we're here, is to educate our students, each of our students, and understanding that we may have to make change in order to make that happen. So I had the opportunity to go and sit at Leslie's table at the Kent Communities and Schools fundraiser breakfast, and that organization is dear to my heart because I worked for Communities and Schools of Renton for many years. That was kind of one of my first jobs in education as a family support worker, and it was really exciting to hear from students and see all the folks there that were supporting a great partner that we have. Again, I appreciate the opportunity for community partners to come in because we know that as a school district, we cannot do everything ourselves. So I appreciate the encouragement of, partnering with other community, using your CBOs to help achieve what we as a school district might not be able to alone. So I also wish all mothers a wonderful Mother's Day. I know I better be treated well. So, and I hope that you all are as well. I feel like personally the mother is the backbone of society, not just our homes, but moms. We have bonus kids. We have, other kids that people that call us kids. And so I really, moms are very special. And so I hope that each and every one of you feel that way and are treated that way this week and after this week. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
I enjoyed the Kent Meridian Multicultural Assembly. It's just wonderful to see the kids getting up there and sharing their cultures and being proud of what they do. I always enjoy it, and I just really enjoyed it this year for sure. I went to see Spamalot at Kent Ridge. Incredible talent. Acting, singing, just incredible. Very impressed. I'm going to go see Much Ado About Nothing at Kentwood this weekend, and Rumors the next week after that at KM. So got it on my bill. The Communities and Schools breakfast at first count raised $44,000. The goal was $50,000. There's still more donations to come in, so they're hoping to hit their goal. That's who we mentor through. I'm mentoring 3 girls. One of them is no longer in the district. She's graduated and is getting ready to go to the University of Washington for her junior year. She's made it through Highline, and I'm really proud of her. And my other one is working with the older one, or the next one down, is working on credit reclamation in a real serious way, and she still has work to do, and we're going to get her there. I will say what I said last time we were here. I heard a whole bushel full of assumptions being made tonight, and I just want to encourage you to keep your mind open even just a little bit to the possibility that the assumptions that you're making are not necessarily the truth, and they're not the total truth. There may be hints of things that you're seeing, and you're jumping to conclusions, and you're making assumptions, and just pick up more information. Please, ask questions, please.
Thank you. Well, I was at the Community and Schools breakfast as well. Not for me, first time attendee. I didn't even know it existed, so that's my fault. But it was fantastic.
Their auction, and the Rotary does number of fundraising efforts for our school district, and so I want to just personally apologize that we were not in attendance, and it was apparent that there was no one from the district present, and so I just wanted to apologize on behalf of our district. And we do value our community partners. I want to be very clear that, many of us, we attend all of the functions, but the auction is not something that we always attend. It is $75 cost, but in the past, our district would pay for something like that. But it's in no way negates the importance of the organization. So I wanted to be clear on that, and also thank our all of those who worked on our levy. We haven't done a formal thank you, and Dr. Watts, of course, has mentioned that at the dais. But that's something we'd like to do too in the future. We've talked about it. We want to thank community and staff and students, of course, part of community, who worked very hard on the levy, in passing that levy, even if it was close. And let's see, I also wanted to mention that I met with a couple of our staff principals at Mill Creek, and I just really value the communications we have. It's not always comfortable talking to the board, but I value that because I am one of those people who want to nip things in the bud, not have it fester. And so, anytime there's information that we could use that's will help us make decisions, I welcome that as a board member. So I want to state that. And then finally, I wanted to thank Maria Martin and her staff in putting together the staff to student ratio discussion. And I do think, that would be helpful to go on our website because there's a lot of questions about class size. And I thought that was very informative. And any such information, I hope we can spread so that people have a good understanding of what class sizes look like in our schools. So with that, I want to thank all of you for coming and have a safe drive home. All right, we are adjourned.